Oh, I'm on YouTube.
So am I.
Hey, everybody. I will start this budget presentation with the first look.
Okay, so here we are at another budget season for the district, and certainly a lot of variables to consider with regards to the governor's executive proposal for the budget. The first of several negotiations between the legislature and the governor is expected to be forthcoming. But in the interim, as Dana says, and we'll say throughout our discussion, we work off of the information that is available to us. So on that note, we'll dig in here. So every year we talk about our focus of budgeting, and in each year there are different priorities that are embedded based on the priorities that have been established through the work of the board and the administration of the district. So this year we have quite a few that will be propping up and supporting. So our guide moving forward is our strategic plan, which we are about 6 months into so far. And so we have several goals associated with academic excellence, innovation, and well-being that we'll be supporting. Each year the board puts forth their goals, and I have goals as superintendent as well that we utilize budget appropriations to ensure fulfillment of. And then our forward-facing aspects of the budget, certainly our community schools program, now in its second year, and really continuing to gain steam. So making sure we continue our community schools programming, just generally meeting the many needs of students. So we know that we've seen quite an increase in the needs for social work in our district, for language assistance, and for math and English response to intervention in the wake of pandemic. So all of those things are some of the ways that we're going to continue to meet the needs of students. We have a collaborative framework in place in terms of our instructional planning in the district. So we have department leaders spread across the entirety of the district in both buildings, and they are an integral part of the planning each year. We continue to look at ways to realize efficiencies whenever possible, without sacrificing the quality of instruction for our students. And then we have specific priority areas that have been laid bare through the strategic plan, through the board goals, through my goals, and in the work with our department leaders, and that is to continue to provide strong math RTI support, to bring the science of reading to our district, to have a greater implementation beyond kindergarten this year, to promote civics, civic engagement and volunteerism amongst our students, and of course our latest challenge, but also opportunity to have quality English language learning instruction for our 23 English language learners in the district. So that's the focus of our budgeting. Certainly what we want to lend our efforts towards. Our budget process is, those of you who've been on the board, is the same that it's been since you sat in the seat. We look at all known revenue and expenses over the course of the next couple of months. We know that there's an expectation that the budget be solidified at the state level by April. And we also know that April Fools is in close proximity to that due date as well. You can determine how coincidental that may be. So we identify and prioritize our desired budget items and change those with our goals. And then we make strategic changes to our budget based on our priorities and the available funding. So that's our process in a nutshell. And then yeah, mine flaked out too there.
No.
I mean, I can see it on the left. I just don't know.
Is it animated?
It's animated, right? Like the next one pops up.
No, I mean, but did somebody put an animation on the text? Because then
The number.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
So, Dana, do you have access?
Yeah.
All right, so Dana, talk about our first draft, if you will, get into some of the numbers, what we anticipate, and we'll get a feel for it.
So right now, the first draft, we're looking at a total budget of 22,400,000. That's a 3%. Actually, it's a 3.005% increase. We want to be more accurate, but it's 3.0%. You'll see that in the documents. The property tax levy, there's also a document that I provided there in terms of how that is calculated. Looking at a tax levy at 17,658,572. That's an increase of 2.8% over this current year. And that is, as it stands, the maximum allowed that we can go for the tax levy. So if you were to look at the document I provided, the tax levy spreadsheet, it breaks down how that comes to be. And basically there's a formula as you look on it as to what we can look into. We take it last year's tax levy, the current year, it's on here as well. The tax base growth factor is 1.01. That is determined at the state or county level. I just notified that it's available, and I go on and you can look at anyone's school district under each county, and it tells that growth factor. So that growth factor is part of the formula. We look at our debt expenses because we can exclude that. So that's when you look at it. We have prior year exemptions of 1.373 million, and that is what our debt was last year. So we got a prior year. We had a prior year pilot of $4,000. So we look at prior year, and then we look at coming year in terms of our expenses. So you'll see that really what it comes down to is we got some changes. The CPIU is set at like 3.5%, which means we're capped at 2%, but yet our tax levy is 2.8%. Why we have a levy of over 2% is because of the exclusions we're able to pull out, and that's mainly through our debt service, our bonds that we use. We have an energy performance bond that we've been paying on, as well as the capital project bond of 2020 that we're paying on. We can exclude the money that we pay for our bus leases, and then the pilots. We do have a new pilot being added this year. So we're going from a pilot amount of 4,000 to 16,000, a little over 16,000 this coming year. It's the Mackenzie Overlook property. We got a document a couple weeks ago from the town saying that they've been approved of, I think, with the 30-year pilot, $26,000, and that gets parceled out between the town and the school. I think there's an escalator in that contract that it increases 2% a year. So we haven't had a pilot change in, my goodness, probably 10 plus years. So I think our other pilot is the Comlinks property. So,
Pilot being payment in lieu of.
yes, payment in lieu of taxes. So rather than being assessed at full value, they ask for and the town agrees to, and they negotiate that amount. So we'll have this going forward for the next 30 years. That will be on the books. So all said and done, when you look at the formula for our tax levy, it ends up being the property tax levy of 17,658,572. It's a 2.8% increase. That's a dollar amount of $481,295. If you're looking at what that is dollar amount wide. So questions on the tax levy? State aid right now, and Tim has alluded to this, right now, what is being out there for us is 2.996654, 2 million. This says a $614,000 decrease because that's what they want you to see. You know, when you look at our state aid, we have foundation aid, and then we have a lot of expense driven aids, BOCES aid, transportation aid, building, all of that. So when you look at what they're proposing, the bottom dollar is $614,000 decrease. In reality, foundation aid, which is a real dollar amount, that is actually $843,000, 853. So in reality, we're actually seeing a over 41% decrease in our foundation aid as proposed by the governor already. So you ask, why is there a difference between the 843 and the 614? Well, the difference is made up by a fictitious number that they say we could get, but we have never gotten. One of the expense aids is our universal pre-K program. So they allocate for us, up until about a year ago, we've been allocated about $405,000. But that aid is driven by enrollments. And we get reimbursed $10,000 per student in our pre-K program. Since I've been in this position, since we've had the UPK program, we have never maximized our $405,000 allotment, because our enrollment is typically from 25 to maybe 33, 34. The last few years, it's been hovering in the high 20s to about 30. So the governor decided that she's going to give more money to UPK programs. So we got an increase of $226,000 as our allotments. However, the reimbursement rate has not changed. It is still $10,000. So when you do all of the calculations from the state aid, you say, okay, we're only losing $614,000. But in reality, $226,000 of that aid, we will probably never see unless we have a UPK enrollment of 61 students, doubling what we have ever had in our program.
Well, what would be the point then of allocating it for the district when the numbers are already there that you're not even meeting the original amount?
Thank you. It looks good on paper, and it's a nice press release that we're putting more money towards UPK programs. Yeah, and there are different, and you know this, Colleen, that there are different UPK programs. Not all UPK grants get the $10,000 allotment. So in the cases where it's universal versus statewide UPK, other districts might be getting their allotments, a larger allotment, and they might be getting some more reimbursements. But for us, we are at the high end at $10,000 per enrollee. That has not changed, and there's no talk about it changing. So this is really misleading, and I even said this to the paper today, that because they said, oh, the NYSET wipes that. And I said, you're correct. In reality, we're really seeing a potential $843,000 loss in state aid, not a $600,000 loss in state aid. So federal aid, $33,738. That's actually from our rural schools grant that we've been getting over the last 4 or 5 years. In this current year budget, that dollar amount was over $200,000, and that was because of the American Rescue Plan money. We'll be using that up this current year. It actually has to be expensed by September of this year, and we got to report that out. So going forward for this coming budget, that money is no longer available. So we're going from a $207,000 revenue line to $33,000 revenue line there. And then right now, to balance everything for you for the budget is we're looking to appropriate $1.6 million from our fund balance to balance the budgets where we need to be. In addition to increasing our interest on investments from $35,000 that what is this year to $500,000. So I've increased that line substantially. But we have talked about that since last year, that the rates are great right now, and to generate that this year is probably a very doable number. Who's to say in 6 months, 8 months, as the rates start to come down, if that will still be the case, but for this year, it should be fine. Questions on this slide? Questions on any of the aid? So as you go through, the next slide talks about major categories, and this is a good opportunity to basically just highlight one of the documents I provided is the 9-page proposed budgets. I'm not gonna go through that line by line, because as you can see, there's lots of lines. But when you look at it, it is literally every code that we have. It's part of the reports I give you on a monthly basis. It's broken down. There are three components: administrative, program, and capital. To highlight this is really the major categories. These are our major drivers for expenses. BOCES, what you're seeing right now is a reduction of about 15%. That is still unknown because they have not provided their numbers. I'm basing it off of this year because we're moving away from the past program. The past program was costing us about a little over $500,000. So in this year's, I think we have what, 3 students going.
That's right.
So that is, they're charging us tuition rate, not a one set rate that they have been. So we're going to see in this current year, we're planning a sizable reduction in our current budgets for that expense. But until we actually see the proposal, so I have reduced that budget line. It was over 900. You know, if you look at it, it's actually on page 6. Thank you. On page 6, that should be under. Oh, occupational education, you see a reduction of $358,000, and that's just really going off of what we're projecting the current year expenses are going to be. So until we get that final number, that is still kind of an unknown, but I think that's a good indicator as to where we're going for the BOCES, and that's why we're seeing such a reduction, is because of that change in the current year programming.
Okay. I went through this and I can see that that particular line item is the driver of the decrease, $350,000. What exactly is that? And are you saying it's kind of a projection based on the number of people we have in that program compared to last year?
Yeah, because that line is occupational, so it covers 2 expenses. It covers our CPE program at BOCES.
Yeah.
So the career tech side of it, you know, your conservation, auto tech, but then it also covers a PASS program, an alternative ed program. So we currently have 3 students in there, but we're really moving away from it. So the reduction is really on the PASS side of it, is where we're seeing that was costing us about a little over $500,000 a year to send students.
So it's the number of people who were in that.
Yeah, they develop it by, it's a 5-year enrollment average. So, you know, it costs about what, $20,000 per student about?
Yeah, so last year, 2 years ago, we shifted to our STREAM program, which is our in-house hands-on education program for our kids. And so that kind of delayed the increase that we would have seen. You know, we would have seen more substantial numbers in our past program. And so prior to that, our 5-year average, we may only have had 3 students in that program, but 4 years prior, over the aggregate, we might have had 20 something. And so,
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah.
So it's based on.
so then they switched
student
to a
Yes.
tuition rate
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
as a result. So that's why we're seeing.
So they get that number off of 5-year enrollment average, not on the actual number of students in that program during that year.
Rolling average.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and as you get away from it, as numbers reduce or increase, your rate changes based off of that 5-year average. But we're moving away from it, that's why we're potentially see a sizable change in that level.
Well, while we're on the BOCES topic, which is my favorite topic, as Karen can attest, is there a structural reason why the admin expenses at BOCES are twice the admin expenses of Lake Placid on a portion of budget basis? Is it just the way they define admin, or are they top heavy? It's kind of a pointed question.
I won't touch the second part of that question. I just say that, I can't remember how many years ago, but the comptroller said that BOCES have to move away from keeping legacy costs of retirees, including insurance benefits,
All right.
Yes.
in the program side of the BOCES budget. because that should reflect real-time costs for real-time programs to districts. So as a result, the only other place BOCES can recoup funds is through the admin budget. And so I believe incrementally, they've tried to take a portion of the retiree costs that they have on their payroll. Back when we were much more reliant in special education regionally on the BOCES, those folks have all retired or been absorbed by the districts at this point. So those costs have been borne by the admin budget. And so each year, I think they try and find the Goldilocks zone of what is palatable for districts. And, you know, of late, the porridge has been a bit too hot for us. So we're hoping for something frozen this year, but we'll see.
Yeah, last year was a little over 7%.
Yeah. With a 3%, you know,
No,
levy
that's-
to voters. So not very-
The BOCES, essentially, their admin is twice the percentage portion that it is here. And I was
it
just-
was last year.
Yeah, and I was just wondering what the structural difference is when you say it's legacy.
That's a
costs.
component of it. And I think they're making an effort, this year. I know that they have budget subcommittees with district superintendent regional representation, for instructional, for the admin budget and support services. And since our primary interplay is instructional or the admin budget, I'm the superintendent rep for the region on the admin budget. So I'll certainly have a discerning eye about, what's included in that, given our aid rate.
Okay. Oh, let the rest.
Well, you're right, because we won't, yeah, you know, you guys will have to,
Not a big part.
put that in early April. The board votes on the budget.
Yeah, it's on a Monday.
It's on a
this
Monday
year.
this year.
Yeah. So you'll see that soon. Next, biggest driver is, well, it is the biggest driver, is their salaries. You're seeing a 3.95% increase over this current year. And that's, I mean, that drives, you know, we just had a negotiation last year, the LPA, you know, and the school district signed a contract for 4 years, so it incorporates that. There's some speculation in terms of, well, me putting in some numbers because we're starting the CSEA contract negotiation, so you have some numbers in there. You look through the contract, you'll see custodial, maintenance, instructional, non-instructional salary lines and all that. You know, and you'll see the percentage difference there. And those are, you know, you got to put some type of number in there to build the budget. And then once the contract's been ratified, depending on when it's ratified, you know, we need to make adjustments. We will. That all depends on the process. Benefits, that's the second biggest driver. You'll see it's a 6.39% change there. The biggest driver there is obviously our the health benefits. We actually have not, the consortium has not set those rates yet. I'm going to that meeting tomorrow and hopefully that will be, we'll cover rates afterwards. Early indication is actually not too favorable for us in terms of keeping under our numbers. They're, you know, right now it could be a 5 to 6 or 7% increase. If you were to go through the budget line, you'll see the health benefit line itself. I think I projected an increase of 8% on that line. So if you are curious, it's the page 9, you know, 3/4 of the way down. I projected an 8.7% increase in that line. That's just the health benefits itself. We don't know exactly what that is, but I'm trying to, you know, put something in there. Part of the reason for that projection is trying to anticipate what that number is going to be. Hopefully it'll be lower than what I projected. But also, anytime you have staff retire and you replace them, that retiree, the district continues paying their benefits, and then we add on. So we actually, if we have 7 people retiring and we're replacing 7 people, we add potentially seven new health benefit packages onto our roll. So it's not until a retiree moves into Medicare, where Medicare becomes the primary, the districts actually see a reduction. So it's unlike when someone retires, we might see a savings in salary. You don't see a savings on the benefit side because, rightfully so, we're covering their benefits once they retire. So that number, you know, a driver of that benefits is our health. But you know, that is the biggest of the three big expenses when it comes to our benefits, the health, the dental. But right now, I say a high projection, but I think it's pretty darn close. I don't see that changing much because one of the things we anticipate on that is how many people we hire based off of the retirees, and we have to anticipate that. And there's also always some wiggle room that you need to have in there for people that take leave of absences, and if they have leave and they're on sick, and they get the sick time, their health benefits, continue. We hire someone for a long term. We offer them the benefits. So there's always that wiggle room for people that we bring on during the year and on a long-term basis. Our debt service, that's only a 0.35% change. And that's really what it's going to be going forward. Last year, we started the new bond payment, a 15-year bond payment. And I said last year, we saw a big jump in this payment because we were paying much lower, but now we're paying off the bond itself. So the debt service will stay pretty consistent over the next 15 years. That's kind of in the ballpark. That's what we're going to be paying. It'll just shift between, as you know, if you haven't. And then I added just technology materials. We added that, last year in terms of just what we're spending on technology, just about $230,000 there. It's a 2.3% increase. Professional developments, we're seeing a little over 2% increase there as well for professional developments. But these are questions.
So is this budget that you're proposing, if, say the legislature convinces the governor to not slash our state funding, like she's currently proposing, is this budget in a place where we would just take that straight off the tax levy if we get more in state aid, or is there places that we're gonna have to fill in holes that places that we had to tighten?
I would not adjust the tax levy because basically, like we 3 years ago, we did a 0%, and then the following year we did a negative. And anytime you do something like that, you leave money on the table, if you will, because going forward, your levy is always built off of the prior year levy.
Sure.
So in essence, you leave money on the table by doing that. So we did that 2 straight years. Going forward, we should be, pretty close maximizing our levy, because you can see it going forward. If the CPI stays above 2% over the next couple of years, we're probably going to be seeing a 2.8% increase at max because our debt's not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we have a 2% CPI cap, we're going to be seeing about a 2.8% increase in. That's going to be in that $450,000 to $500,000 range. To answer your question, what I would do is, because right now we are appropriating $1.6 million of our fund balance. We currently have $1 million appropriated for this year. So if this year and proposed next year goes, our $4 million fund balance will now be reduced to $2.6 million. One of the things that we've talked about using some of this reserve for is obvious things like this, but also for repairs. We created the repair reserve of up to $1 million. We have the fitness center, with the auditorium. This West Wing, we need all new events. They're going to cost about $200,000. So if that foundation aid gets restored, that will come, most likely out of the appropriated fund balance, because then we can use the reserve money, in these areas that we would like to target, things that we can't budget for.
Right.
We can't
Stuff you can head off in the past.
Right. We can't budget $200,000 for new univents here in this West Wing. That needs to get replaced. The guardrail out here needs to get replaced, and that's about a $50,000 or $60,000. Our BCS has come in, and granted, those numbers are, I think, quite highly inflated. But there's what needs to get repaired is not inflated.
Right.
It's just the dollar amount. So those things that we could use our reserve funds to start repairing those things, so that we don't have to go out to the voters anytime in the near future to ask for another capital project to fund these repairs. So, but if we're using it in the appropriated fund balance as a source of revenue, it takes away that ability to make those repairs. And really weakens us in the next couple of years in terms of having, fiscal, stability and support.
Makes sense. Any other questions for Dan? Or sorry, you have one more slide.
Well, the next slide is the percentage of the budget. You'll see the programming, that's the direct, program is what it connects to the kids. That's why they call it programming. It's about 80% of our budget, and that's where you want it to be. That's, the teacher salaries, the TA salaries, the support staff, transportation, athletics, all of that is under program. So 80% of our budget is there. Capital is 12%, and that's our debt service for our infrastructure, and then administratively, 7.92%. That is an increase over last year in terms of percentage wise, because we added basically the pupil personnel services administrative position, rightfully so. So that's why we're seeing an uptick there in the administrative side. I did add, it's not on this, I asked Karen to add it into the documents, it's the revenue source. Well, it doesn't matter, right, but I just want to highlight that when you look at our revenue source right now, property tax is sitting at 77%. In the years past, that's been anywhere from 80 to 83%. So, we're seeing a decline there. Our rate has been low in terms of our tax cap, but also, if you look at it, appropriated, that's our money as well. That's driven by the taxpayer. So in reality, 84% right now, if you look at our budget right now, it's from money that we have here or we're going to collect on a year-on-year basis. State aid is 11%. That has been in the past 15 to 16%. So we're seeing a reduction there based off of the current governor's proposal. Federal aid, that is, typically before COVID, has always been a very small number. So we're getting back to what it used to be before COVID and before the COVID resources came into school districts. And other sources, that's interest, that's our rental amounts, that's our interest in investments and all that. That fluctuates depending on the market and depending on who's renting our facilities and things like that. But I wanted to highlight that because we are seeing a little reduction in our property tax, and that's because of where we are budget wise. So I think long term, as appropriated fund balance goes away and all that, or goes down, we're going to have to see a shift back to relying 80% plus on the taxpayers for the revenue.
Just a general question. If there's any sensitivity in the budget, either on the revenue or the expense side, when we're looking at kind of best case, worst case, is it susceptible to major shifts, or is it pretty firm or even, plus or minus?
For this year or just for going in?
Going forward.
Well, anytime you build a budget where you are using appropriated fund balance as a source of revenue, it's not a long-term solution. That money, goes away, type of deal. So, it's meant for short-term solutions, not long-term solutions. So if you're looking at it down the road in 2-3 years, as our fund balance goes away because we're using it like this, there's at the same time needs to be a shift in expenses to offset, in this case, 1.6. If the foundation aid is restored, it's half that, but it's still a lot of money. It's $800,000. We appropriated $1 million in this current year budget. So some type of, as we move forward over the next 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 at the most, adjustments have to happen between what our expenses are and the loss of revenue in terms of appropriated fund balance.
So you look at this as a realistic as opposed to optimistic or pessimistic budget.
This current budget,
Yes.
absolutely. I do not.
Realistic.
Yes, it's realistic. It's just where our fund
Best you
source.
can, yeah.
Yeah, I honestly don't envision the number going up much. I try to anticipate worst case scenario for health benefits. I try to anticipate high-end scenarios for negotiating contracts so that once it's all filtered out, for me, best case scenario is, there might potentially be a little reduction in the dollar amounts. But at this moment in time, I don't see it. I don't want it to go above. I feel very comfortable with the 3% increase where we are.
We have a fund balance that we can play with if
Correct.
we need to.
Yes, that's why this year is not, I'm not too stressed about the proposal because of the long-term implication, but short-term, I feel comfortable in terms of where we are to cover it.
Thanks, Dana. So, the things that are still in flux then are unknowns. You go down that list and the executive budget, that's very much in play, as we know. Our health insurance, we should know by tomorrow, Dana, right? Based
That
on-
is the hope, unless there's an impasse.
So ideally tomorrow. then?
Ideally tomorrow,
All
yes.
right, like that. BOCES costs, what are we thinking, mid-March, we might have something?
Yeah, you should probably be seeing a proposed budget anytime soon.
And then we're undertaking negotiations with the CSEA starting next week. So we hope for a good solid process there and hope to have reliable information certainly by our April budget. So, and then the last thing that's in question is just whether we actually will see our final state aid amounts on the first. Last year was an anomaly because the federal government stepped in and allowed for fully funding of foundation aid, predictably so, and this year is going to be choppy, so we may see things a little after the first. Those are the things that we're waiting on still. And then in terms of what's included in this rendering of the budget, I think for probably 5 to 6 years, the district has included school meals for all students, and thankfully September, October, we met the community eligibility provision. So, we're in the first year of having federal funding for all student meals. But even so, we're anticipating, some loss in the overage of our program. So we're speculating it could be $150,000 for this year. And so we repeat that for next year. We have our professional development goals that we're continuing. So we're moving towards the science of reading at the elementary school, and that curriculum is not cheap. But the governor has also made it clear that the state would like to see us move in that direction in the next 2 years. Thankfully, we're a year ahead of when she made that announcement, so it should be practical for us. Continue supporting our ENL program for our English language learners. Continue with our STREAM program. Dana talked about how switching from the PASS program to our in-house supports basically allowed for a $500,000 boon to the district in this year, but we've reinvested parts of that to ensure that our kids are having the experiences that I report on, working at different venues in town and going on different field trips and doing hands-on learning, which has been great. Continuing our WOODS program, which has been a success. And then we're looking at 3 new buses for the year, right, Dana?
Yes, we have 3 coming up, and so we're looking to replace all 3. We're actually 2 out of the 3 are a little larger than what we normally get. They thought that maybe Mickey and Pat transportation thought having 2 larger buses could be beneficial on field trips, and all that, where 1 bus might be sufficient as opposed to sending 2. But also, what was the driving force is the fact that these 3 buses we can obtain over the summer, which we used to be able to do, but then COVID threw everything off. We just got a bus last week. Last year, we picked up 2 new buses in March, and we had to rent a bus to get us to March because we use 2 different companies. We have Leonard buses and Bluebird. So Leonard's took their buses back in July, but we weren't getting our new buses until March. So we actually rented a bus. So the 268 passenger buses, they're actually sitting on the lots. They thought it was a great idea to go with them for the reasons I've already stated. And the 62 will be ready at the beginning of the summer. So, we'll be, hopefully going into the school year with our full fleet and not having to worry because we're down a bus or two. But it gives us some nice flexibility. We have a small bus, 9-seater. We just got our 30 passenger bus. That's our handicapped accessible bus that just got on the road today. So if you see a medium-sized bus driving around, that's our new bus we just got. And then we'll add 2 larger buses to the fleets. To give us some greater flexibility.
Okay, so then our timeline moving forward, April 22nd is D-Day for petitions for board candidates. Also, the board will move to adopt the budget. Our budget hearing, this is the first year of our biannual rotation between hearings in Wilmington and Lake Placid. So this is our Wilmington year on the 7th. So we'll present the budget to voters at that time, and then the vote is May 14th. Any questions about any aspect of our first run here?
Just wait.
Right.
So we covered everything in your presentation.
Yep.
All right.
The only thing we didn't really cover is the tax schedule, but that's just an estimate based off of that the budget workshop based off of current year's numbers. So we're looking at a 5.58% tax levy versus 5.54 current. There's actually 2 documents there because first time in my term here, we have 2 different tax levies for North Elba and Wilmington. Wilmington this current year decided to evaluate their property on an 80% equalization rates, not 100% equalization rates. So that's why I provided 2 different documents for that based on that, because there's technically 2 different tax levies right now. One for North Elba, one for Wilmington.
All right. So may I take a break before we continue on to the regular meeting? Right. Welcome, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic. All right, so the first item is the consent agenda. Recommended action: approve the following items which are included on the consent agenda: 4A minutes, 5B long-term teaching staff appointment, and 6A special education. Do I have a motion?
Yeah.
Thank you, Colleen. Do I have a second?
I'll motion it, second it.
Sorry, Ryan beat you to it.
It's all right.
There. Any discussion, changes, alterations? If not, please vote.
Ron, are you voting?
I don't know. Is something gonna pop up? I don't see anything, but aye.
Thank you. 7 yes.
Thank you, everyone. Brings us to the good of the cause. The Board of Education encourages public participation on school-related matters at board meetings. To allow for public participation, a period not to exceed 30 minutes has been set aside at the beginning and end of board meetings. As a general rule, public participation will be limited to 5 minutes total per speaker. Anyone who wants to speak should state their name and sign in on the sheet. Comment should be general in nature and should not involve concerns regarding specific employees of the district, as the board has separate protocol for these matters. This is protection of school employees to ensure their due process rights in a public forum. Individuals wishing to raise specific concerns on school employees should follow the regulations outlined in policy 1400. We'll start with the letters, I guess.
Sure. I received a letter from Heather Odell. I'd like to thank you for your dedication to improving the quality of our school district's educational experience. This is no small feat. It requires time, patience, and a willingness to make difficult decisions. The purpose of this letter is to encourage you to permit day students at local independent schools to merge with the Lake Placid Central School District's athletic teams. Not long ago, the school board I served on was tasked with outlining a merger policy for our district. We researched, deliberated, revised, deliberated. We often wondered why so much of our time was spent on sports. Didn't anyone care about academics? Weren't we a school board after all? But these decisions we make about sports, we know they're more than just about shoulder pads and playing time. These decisions impact the development of the whole student, socially, emotionally, academically. But sadly, these decisions are often based on tradition, numbers, fielding teams, ego. Either way, the yays and the nays during board meetings somehow end up validating our children. Like any small school in the North Country, Keene was worried about maintaining its identity. What if there weren't enough boys to yield a soccer team? Would Lake Placid be willing to merge? What would happen if there weren't enough girls to field a basketball team? What would happen to the Beaver Dome? What if, what if, what if? The what ifs won that year. I remember one powerful what if moment. The most athletic kid in school attended a school board meeting. He requested a merger with Lake Placid. He was a NYSEF Nordic skier, and he wanted more than anything to run cross country in the fall. The school board said no. Let me clarify, everyone else on the school board except for me said no. The rationale was simple. If we allow you to run cross country, we'll have to let everyone else run cross country, and then we won't have enough numbers for a soccer team. But this was the actual outcome. Said athlete did not cave and join the soccer team. Said athlete did not launch a litany of cross country renegades, depleting KCS of its soccer team. The BOE did successfully convey to this young man that his talents and interests were not as worthy of those of his peers. The BOE did make clear that we cared more about numbers than guiding this student in achieving his full potential, even though we had the resources to do so. The following school board meeting provided even worse. This time, 2 exceptional female athletes sought a merger with Lake Placid to Nordic Ski. The what ifs would be outdone this time. Either would not be outdone either. Why do we need to merge? Can't we just join NYSEF like the other Nordic kid? Why can't you? What? We can't allow you to merge. We won't have a basketball team. Your family should have looked at it on our website. They would have known we don't offer Nordic skiing. As I listened, it was clear board members were insensitive to the cost of NYSEF. I wondered how consulting a website would be a plausible retort when families often move to town before they even have children, whose interests might fluctuate over time. I looked at the deflated expressions of our Nordic hopefuls. I felt shame for not valuing their individuality the same way the board valued tradition. However, I felt comfort in knowing my own children would never be considered a number, because during this what if moment, I knew we were going to move. One of the most difficult decisions I've ever made was putting that for sale sign in my yard shortly thereafter. But at least I could rest assured this decision was more educated and calculated than any of those the Keene School Board had recently made. Decisions rooted in what ifs and fear do no service to a student body. Consequently, they negatively impact the few pleading for their identity to be recognized. In my 20 years of experience as an educator, granting students a sports merger is absolutely insignificant to the fiscal health of the district. Referring to individuals as numbers is simply immoral. Doing so dismisses all that quality education represents. Furthermore, decision-making based on hypotheticals leads to unpredictable outcomes. Keene's denial of mergers in order to retain numbers ultimately yielded the opposite result. I'm thankful to have spent roughly half of my teaching career at Lake Placid High School and half at Northwood School. Our small town is lucky to have two wonderful educational powerhouses. Partnerships and collaboration are certainly the future of education. No doubt, there are more cost savings and educational opportunities in embracing a relationship than rejecting one. Thank you for your time, Heather Odell. This one is from Jennifer Briggs. I recently learned that the Board of Education voted to turn down any consideration of Northwood School's proposal to permit its students to participate in our athletics program. As a concerned parent of children who participate in our athletics program, I believe you should reconsider. I support allowing Northwood and North Country School students to participate in our sports teams. I have two daughters that attend the Lake Placid Middle High School. They are both highly motivated students who participate in varsity sports at Lake Placid. My older daughter has played varsity soccer and now runs on both the cross country and track teams. My younger daughter was on varsity soccer this year as an 8th grader and plans on running track this spring. She is currently unenrolled so that she can alpine race. This past fall, I watched for my second year in a row our girls varsity team have a losing season. Last year, my older daughter played on varsity soccer as one of the 11 players. They never won a game and frequently had to play with 1 or 2 people down. They tried to move 8th graders up that year, but they could not pass the physical fitness exam. This year, my older daughter quit soccer as it was too frustrating and joined the cross-country running team, which allowed that team to have a full team of 5 runners. My younger daughter joined the varsity soccer team as one of the 8th graders that were brought up from modified. She started every game and played the majority of all matches, as did the other 8th grade girls. They did not win a single game, which was frustrating for all of them. Everyone kept saying it's because we are a young team, but the reality is that we were playing against teams who had full benches. This allows for more substitutions for athletes to catch their breath, as well as account for injuries that are going to happen. I do not know the exact numbers of the varsity basketball team, but know that they have extremely low numbers, and they had to even play 3-on-3 in a recent match due to our team not having enough players. I bring this information up as I believe the board has not taken a serious look at the ever-declining numbers of our athletic programs. I urge this board to actually look into this issue. Did you speak to any of the coaches to find out how their season was and their thoughts on a merger? Did you speak to the student athletes to see how they would feel? Have you looked into why the number of our athletic programs are dwindling when we have such strong participation in our youth leagues? Have you weighed the pros and cons of allowing private school kids to join versus merging with the public school for sports? Now turning to Northwood and North Country School, my belief is that many of the students that would like to participate in our athletic programs are former Lake Placid students. These children would love to continue to play the sports they grew up playing with all their friends at Lake Placid Middle High School. I don't know why the board wouldn't want that continuity, not only for the kids, but also for the sports teams. Is it that you no longer want a connection with these kids because they choose to go to a private school? I am sure their teammates don't feel that way. I know that there is the fear that if you allow Northwood students to join our sports teams, that we will lose more students. I think it is a short-sighted view. We do not lose students to Northwood School, but we do lose students to Northwood School, but that will never stop happening, whether you allow Northwood students to join our teams or not. Some kids leave due to wanting a stronger academic environment, but others leave because our school cannot support the athletics those children are striving to excel at. It certainly is not our school's fault. With a sport like alpine racing, a public school could never accommodate for that type of daily training needed to be successful. Sports are very much a part of a high school career, adding valuable lessons in communication, time management, and dealing with adversity. It also keeps children active after school and off their phones, devices, and other vices that are less productive. As a board, you should try to foster and grow these programs and not sit back with the belief that the numbers seem healthy enough, so let's keep the status quo. It's as if you have all forgotten that in order to keep a hockey program, we had to merge, and that is true for lacrosse, baseball, and softball. Our numbers are dwindling, and it is your task to keep our school strong, which includes athletics. Jennifer Briggs. And both of these letters will be posted on Board Docs if you want to read them yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Whoever is first on the list, I can't see the list.
Wait till last.
Oh, okay. So Carrie, I guess you're next and then.
Okay,
Chris.
I have a letter. Do I have to stand up? Hi, I'm Carrie Wardlaw, and I'm here for that same reason, and I have a letter I would just like to read. Dear Mr. Seymour and members of the Board of Education, thank you for taking the time to consider our proposal for the students in the district. I believe this proposal will positively impact our schools and more specifically our athletic programs. Having witnessed the growth and challenges of both Lake Placid and Northwood in the realm of athletics, I suggest we explore a potential collaboration and merger of our respective sports programs. This merger has the potential to benefit the school and the community. This merger is intended solely for local day students in the district whose parents live here and pay taxes. Here are some key points to consider. Strength in numbers. By combining the athletic talents of both schools, we can create stronger, more competitive teams across the sports in consideration. This would improve your overall standing in regional and state competitions. Shared resources. A merger would allow us to pool our resources, both human and material. Sharing the commitment to excellence would elevate the overall standard of the athletic program. I know as a parent, when my older two were here, there was no transportation for lacrosse, so parents were carpooling and trying to get our kids to Saranac Lake, and I think that's why a lot of kids didn't play. However, Northwood has buses that would be available. Expanded opportunities. Students from both schools would benefit from increased opportunities to participate in a wider range of sports, fostering a sense of inclusivity and diversity within a merged athletic department. Increased community engagement. A united front in athletics would generate increased community support and involvement. The synergy created by a successful merger would inspire community members to invest in and rally behind these unified teams. I appreciate that this proposal requires careful consideration and review. I'm happy to discuss this further and suggest a joint committee comprised of representatives from both schools to explore how it might work, as well as potential benefits of such a collaboration. I believe a collaborative approach to athletics would enhance the sports programs of both our schools and contribute to the overall growth and development of our shared community. I look forward to the possibility of working together for the benefit of our schools and most importantly, our students who deserve this. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Chris? Chris, I think you're next.
Okay.
My name's Chris Fay. Father Max Fay and Lila Fay. We're at the middle school right now. I've been a high school principal at Ausable Valley. Currently, I'm an elementary school at Ausable Valley. The school district has done an exceptional job, especially with the community schools grant and really supporting this community through the lunch program, through all these experiences that are available to kids, no matter what socioeconomic class they come from. But having worked at Ausable Valley, where we support mergers for just about any kid for any sport, we've never voted, as far as I know, never heard of a vote no for any merger. It's been an exceptionally beneficial experience for those students and for our students at Ausable Valley. I think that here in Lake Placid, just to echo what the other, like what Jen Briggs said, and my wife Heather O'Dell and Carrie, if students want to play a sport who are local students with tax-paying parents who are attending a private school, we should support those kids, because it's not just supporting them, it's supporting the numbers in the athletic program here at Lake Placid. It's supporting the kids they've grown up playing soccer with or lacrosse or whatever it is through Tri-Lakes, or the kids that have gone to so I'm the chairman of the Lake Placid Outing Club. We take kids from everywhere. We don't turn down kids from St. Agnes or, and I understand that there are district boundaries, but if they're local taxpayer families, why would we turn them down here in our own district? And the Lake Placid Community Ski Program, again, they don't just take Lake Placid kids, they take St. Agnes kids. We're out there working hard, volunteers. The same parents are running these programs that support all the kids who are doing these activities. So I just think that if you really want to formed community, which you guys have done an exceptional job at, it really should continue into the varsity sports program here at Lake Placid. I just want to make sure that I said everything that I had here. These kids know each other. They grew up together. They want to continue to play with each other. I could see how you might be afraid that if Northwood started merging with Lake Placid, that perhaps they could recruit kids to play for Lake Placid. But really, if you limit it to the kids who are taxpayers, whose parents are taxpayers, I think that negates that completely. I also think it's far-fetched to think that that's really going to be a major factor. I don't think most kids aren't going to do, most families aren't going to like go to Northwood, buy a house, become a taxpayer. They're not going to go that far.
If I can jump in, Chris, too.
Yeah, go ahead.
To add to that, obviously working on it, but it doesn't work for our boarding students anyway. Our schedule's so different. So we're 100% talking about our local kids, our day students. The merger would only work for them because our other students leave so early in the spring and then, and even in the winter, it's not.
So it's not even feasible for other kids.
It's just day students we're asking for.
The cost of a merger is negligible. I mean, you're talking about a few uniforms or whatever. I'd be happy to pay for my own kids' uniforms if that was the case. The Board of Education, you're elected officials. I think it would be really important to please go out and talk to your constituents, see what their feelings are as parents of student athletes. And really, I guess what I'm asking for is, what are the negatives for merging with the local private schools for student athletes who are taxpayers? What am I not seeing? Because I don't understand a decision to say no to a child. So I would really like to know, what are the negatives? What are we afraid of? What don't we want to occur by allowing mergers with currently North Country or Northwood? We had a North Country kid play soccer this year, started modified, went to varsity. My son made a new friend. Like, that was an exceptionally good experience. Lacrosse is a growing, there's a huge lacrosse tradition in this town, but we can barely field a team. Having more students available would be great. And really, that's it. So I do thank you for all you do, especially working in a school my entire career. Again, I think you've done an incredible job of supporting kids, especially kids from all economic classes. But I really would like you to take a deep look at this issue, talk to your constituents, answer my questions about what are the negatives, because I don't understand where the negatives are coming from. Read my wife's letter carefully, please, if you have time, because she was on a school board at Keene, who now field a wonderful Nordic program and basketball. So again, and thank you for your time.
Next.
Are you gonna speak, Nate? No. Dan, you're up.
I'll wait till the.
Oh, the second you haven't had. Oh, okay.
You're in it for the long haul. Did you miss it?
I'm gonna make you wait.
Okay. Didn't realize you missed it so much. You can come and visit anytime. All right, any other comments? Moving on. You guys,
Email.
there are no
no more
emails? Okay, thank you. You guys are welcome to stay if you'd like, or you can make your escape.
Okay, so we don't do this, we just present that to you. You
Correct.
guys
Yep.
talk amongst yourselves.
We will put any information, we have a section right after this called information for the public.
Okay.
And that's typically when we respond to things that are brought up in the public session. We don't respond.
Got it. Okay,
And I'll give you guys a heads up so you know.
okay, so,
There's a response.
okay,
Usually it takes a couple of weeks.
okay, great.
I mean, there's gonna be a superintendent's report. There's gonna be, I mean, there's some.
Yeah.
Meeting tomorrow, so we got
I got a class tomorrow, I got a prayer for, so. Right, thank you all, appreciate it, thanks, you too. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Information for the public from last meeting. So that moves us on to information for the board. You'll see a couple of things there in public content. Bloomington Library letter and also the extra activity report. Any comments there? It's not a discussion section there, so, but if anyone has any questions. Slight increase.
Yeah, it was $600.
Yeah.
I think that's what they usually ask for.
Yeah. All right, so that brings us to the superintendent's report.
Okay, a lot going on. So I'll start with what our wellness committee is doing. So they're planning a lot of exciting things for the month. Each month has a different theme. Heart health is the theme for February. So included in that is a free CrossFit class for our staff. Another fitness center training session at the new weight room. We're doing a February yoga class at the elementary school, 80 minutes, and a heart health information session. So all good things that the wellness committee is doing. And they're also preparing for the March Wellness Day that we have done over the last several years. So appreciate that. And on the student side of the house, our district's physical education and health departments and art and music departments are teaming up to put on a wellness day for our students on the half day on May 24th. So we're excited to see that come to fruition. And given that that is one of our 3 pillars of our strategic plan is promoting wellness among staff and students, it's nice to see work continuing in that vein. There's already much planning underway for the spring break, not for departing the region, as many will inevitably, but for the students and families who decide to stay locally during that time. So last year we started our staycation program. Mr. Clark leads that initiative through the community schools program, and we have another staycation planned for our kids. So over spring break, we will have open gym at the middle high school. Students can take a trip to the Flynn Theater to watch The Wizard of Oz. There's a candle making class at Pure Placid. There is a disco skating party sponsored by Can-Am. And then I think a cool thing that Keith is doing with this staycation is kids who are staying locally will get a pass to the movie theater and to the bowling alley. And they can go at their leisure
This is great.
to enjoy that. So
It's awesome. What a nice thing for the kids that are left here.
yeah, it's great. And the family passes that we started last year for the oval use, so families can skate for free. That will continue over the break too. So
It's great.
really doing great work in that regard. We're preparing for the second slate of community classes that have been very successful over the last couple of years. So this time period will be from March 11th to the 26th. And the classes this round include pottery, candle making, fly fishing, intro to pickleball, and jewelry making. So we've been at basically capacity every time we've had the classes. So it's been a success, and we look forward to seeing that happen again. There's been much dialogue, I know, certainly internally with the administration and the board, but also amongst the community about the potential for supporting the food pantry and the now closed thrift shop. So efforts continue to make progress with the village, the town, Homestead Development, the Lake Placid Ecumenical Food Pantry to fundraise for a building to take place at the latter end of the Shipman lot. Last week, the Lake Placid Education Foundation met. They are the organization entrusted with preserving the legacy of Melville Dewey, and they committed $100,000 to the project, which is fantastic. I think it's the biggest project they've ever supported since their endowment. And so that initial investment allowed Homestead Development to place a down payment on the modular building to go there. And so the momentum, the object has now been pushed. There is no going back. And all of the players there, representatives from Eline Foundation and Roost and the Leaf Committee and many others have all been involved in the planning of this. So we're very hopeful. The timeline for this project is that within another week or so, a full fundraising campaign will start across the community. And the goal is to have a single building to house both the thrift shop and the food pantry within close proximity to the students so they can earn their service credit. We anticipate, all going well, that the building will be operational by the end of October of this year. So that is a meteoric pace in terms of providing resources for our kids. Our job and career training program, aka JACT, continues to be successful. So the students in our STREAM program, which I referenced when we were talking about our alternative to the PASS program that we participated in greater numbers previously. We had 7 students complete their internship for paid work at the Olympic Center last month, and they are moving to the second phase of their job training. So we have new partners for our students to have internships at the Golden Arrow, Pure Placid, Central Garage, and a second contingent at the Olympic Center. So thank you to all of our community businesses and partners for providing that for our kids. We are undergoing a little early this year the class selection process at the middle high school. Usually we would start in late March with the goal of formulating and finalizing a schedule over the summer. Our goal this year is to have an operational schedule for staff to have prior to departing at the end of the school year. That'll give them time to prepare adequately for any classes that they have, particularly any new classes. And we made a push for additional electives to try and reduce the number of study halls. We have some kids that continue to have, a few study halls in a day. We prefer to have some novel offerings from them. So some of the new courses that students will be able to sign up for include criminal justice, coding class, which would provide dual enrollment college credit through Siena College, public speaking, Organization of American States, and women's health. So lots of good offerings for the kids. We had our elementary concert recently, and our 3rd through 5th grade teachers, along with Mrs. Briggs and Mrs. Franklin, and of course our maintenance staff, were all instrumental in ensuring that concert took place. We moved the concert back to the middle high school, which was a good move, in part to show off the new auditorium for some of our younger families in the district, but also the place was packed. It was to the rafters, so it was beneficial to have the additional space. So
I much preferred sitting in a seat than standing.
Yeah.
The back of the.
That was a solid transition for us.
Great upgrade.
Yeah, that's right. So we have some subcommittee work that's started amongst the board and will continue in the near future. So Ron and John were kind enough to take some time this week to meet with Dana and I to talk about CSEA negotiations. And we will be meeting with that unit for the first time on the 13th. So we look forward to starting dialogue on a new 4-year contract with them. And at the end of the month, we are looking to have a meeting with our facilities committee, which has board representation for Brian and Doug. And we're tentatively looking at meeting with our architect on February 27th, along with the principals and the director of facilities, to identify areas that need improvement, upgrades, repairs, and then to try and create a maintenance improvement plan over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long it takes. So thank you to all of board members who are associated with those committees for your continuing work. We're halfway through the future planning process. So we met with the department leaders and representatives from different teams at the middle high school last week. And so I'll continue that process along with the elementary departments and some of the additional district-wide departments over the next couple of days. And those are always where we hear from teams directly about areas where we can improve and where we may want to put investment, professional development that might be valuable for staff, all those things. So good dialogue to date. And just the last piece here, we entered into the 3rd quarter of the school year. And along with that, that really marks a little more than the halfway point for us of the adoption and implementation of the first year of the strategic plan. And so each year we have an improvement cycle that's built into that, and it's based on a variety of metrics quantitative data about how our students are performing in their classes, and then qualitative data about how students and staff and families are perceiving and feeling about different aspects of what we're doing in the district. So we intend to assemble some survey questions for our students, staff, and community members over the next couple of weeks. And by the March 5th board meeting, I'm hoping to have a draft for your review, where we would take about a month to send that out to all those stakeholders, and then look at that data and continue to set markers and goals aligned with our plan for 2024 to 2025. Those are all the things that are happening in the school in my report.
Is Steve Clark doing anything with the for the staycation, doing something for the eclipse?
He's not. We are going to do some things district-wide though. We are part of a grant that will enable all students and staff to have eclipse glasses. We're working with the Astronomical Observatory in Tupper Lake. Thankfully, they're headed by former Superintendent Seth McGowan of Tupper Lake, and he's working on some information to accompany the glasses about like optimal viewing and the science behind those things. So since it's outside of our school calendar, we can't do anything in the school day. And then with regards to staycation, I know we sort of got burned a little bit with VSU and like, you know, expectations, but expectations from all entities around here are that it will be very cumbersome to do anything road related on that day. So for those reasons, we're just gonna give them the glasses and some instructions and hope for the best.
And it's all weather dependent. We'll wait and see. what weather does.
Well, we can all see it from each of our houses, so
There you go.
it's not that you have to get to someplace, you just walk outside. All right, great. Any questions for Tim?
I heard there's cotton candy at the disco party. And Canada's been a really solid partner to the community. I just want to thank them. I mean, they supported the summer library reading series at the local library, and they supported our boxing program for our students. So we have a lot, we have a lot of different partners coming to the community, but Can-Am has been outstanding. So thanks.
They support the boxing program to see if they could like pick up any enforcers for their teams.
That's right.
Where was that when I was?
All right, 4A was in consent. Brings us to personnel. 5A, recommended action upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the retirement of Caroline Hambley, ESL teacher in the district effective June 30th, 2024. Do I have, a motion? Thank you, Ryan. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Doug. All right, any comment, discussion?
Just thanks to Ms. Hambley, nearly 2 decades of service to the district and promoting world language at the elementary school for so long, and then being the tip of the spear for us when we've had a real surprise increase in the number of English language learning students. So grateful for her ability to pivot and support those kids this last couple of years.
Yeah, 19 years, those are good numbers.
Ron,
Aye, it didn't.
7 yes.
Everyone, and thank you to Ms. Handy for her service. 5B was in consent. 5C, sorry. Recommended action upon the recommendation, accept the resignation of Catherine Colbert, physical therapist, beginning April 12th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Yeah.
Thank you, Colleen. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Sorry, John. Just got edged out there. Any discussion?
Just that technically you have to approve this,
Yeah.
but otherwise, Catherine's fantastic member of the team and will be sorely missed.
Ohio. All right. Please vote.
Ron,
Aye.
You can give us the
7
old
yes.
Roman thumbs up.
He's good at doing that.
All right, thank you, everyone. 6A was in consent. Linking goals with agenda items. Whoop.
Oh, something's a mess.
Ah.
It just should say linking goals with agenda item.
All right, linking goals with agenda
Sorry.
items.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any?
Schools, education.
Hello?
There we go.
I'll text Karen.
Please do.
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh, they're back.
There you are.
We're here.
Well, we
Okay.
couldn't hear, we can't hear you.
We lost you.
Yeah,
Hear us now?
now we can.
Yes.
I think we lost them again.
No,
We
it's
did.
just
Oh,
not talking.
okay.
They're being quiet.
Oh, huh.
All right, any other additional ones? Please send those over to Karen. All right, so that brings us to the second for the good of the cause. Do we have any emails?
We do not.
Waiting, thank you. Dan, you're up now.
Okay. Dan Marvin.
Hi, Dan.
Want to talk about the thrift store and food pantry, and I'm glad it was in Tim's report. You know, that's great that Melville Dewey's foundation gave him 100,000, or, you know, that's a great step forward. My concern is where it's going to be placed. I've heard rumors around town that they're going to take out the basketball court at the Shipman Center, and I would really hope that you guys would seriously look at where it's placed out there, not take away the only outdoor basketball court in this community. We had a half court at the beach. Everybody went on spring break, came back, and it was gone. There used to be a half court behind the elementary school. That disappeared. And when that disappeared, former superintendent Ernie Stratton said, we'll make sure we give you one. And that's the only one left in town. So I really hope that you look at where you're going to place the building out there and not take away, you know, a free activity that students can use. So.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks. Thanks, Dan.
Anyone else? Follow up or counterpoint? I don't know. All right, brings us to the adjournment phase of our meeting. We'll see the next dates for the meeting.
And it's February 27th, not the 20th.
Okay.
No, I
Okay.
know.
Yeah, we're going an extra week because.
Right, right. And
Oh,
we,
right.
right.
Okay. And then we will have a budget work session if needed, so we'll plan on it at this point, right?
Not necessarily.
Let's plan on it just in case.
Okay.
We'll make that call at the agenda setting. All right, any old agenda topics? Any new agenda topics? All right, if not, we will move to, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, recommend action, motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:26 PM. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Ryan. Do I have a second? John? There you go. It's really the most important. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Ron, and we will adjourn the meeting at 7:26 PM. Thank you, everyone. Ron, I hope you heal up fast.
Yeah.
It's a slow process, but I'm getting better by the day. So, thank you.
Next time, pizza, not French fry.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you all.
Yep, thank you.
Have a good evening.